Christian is the Market Development and Collegiate Tennis Director for USTA, and he is our next guest speaker. Virgil, will you please come to the stage? Let's give him a warm welcome.
Get down, 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 get down.
I like that. I like that. I heard welcome. Welcome to me. It's good to be home. This is now our home, and we're excited to begin this endeavor and this walk that we started 2.5 years ago. Bill mentioned young and hip and diverse, so I knew I was in the right spot. No, but seriously, one of our mandates and one of the things we've been really promoting within our group, the United States Tennis Association, is to get young, hip, and diverse. And you'll see when we start coming down that you will see a young and hip and diverse employee pool. And we're going to hire from here too, so we'll do the same. So it's great to be here. Gosh, thinking when I started this process 2.5, 3.5 years ago, really never thought that I'd have an opportunity to speak with professionals, folks that actually really do this for a living, and share a story. So what I wanted to do was kind of do a couple things. I want to get in the weeds a little bit. I want to really talk about how this happened. But I wanted to share with you who we are. Who is the USTA? You've hopefully heard a little bit about us coming to Central Florida. But who exactly are we? What's our business vision? You know, what is our business? Not what our tennis coaching strategy is or how we're going to win the US Open or Wimbledon or whatever, but what is our business? Because that's essentially what's coming down here. And I wanted to also weave in a little bit of the story, kind of behind the scenes, things that I haven't shared publicly, although I see a lot of friends in the room that have been a part of that story. So I want to weave that in. And then I want to answer the question that I've been asked for the last couple years over and over again. And now I feel, and I've always felt this, I think I can really answer this really well, is why Central Florida and why Orlando? It just excites me to no end to really be an ambassador, I like to think, of Orlando and Central Florida. So we're gonna answer that question too. So I'm gonna try to work this if I can. Tammy, what button? Oh, there you go. I can do this. So I'm gonna start with a picture, but this is not how it all started. But I wanted to give you a vision, give you a little bit of a vision what we're talking about, what you've read about, what you've talked about. This is a big place. However you look at it, it's either it's definitely the largest tennis facility in the country, perhaps the world, depending on how you count courts or count acreage. But this was important, and I want to put this out here right now because when in my work and my other job, besides collegiate tennis, is I design facilities with a team all over the country. So before this even began, I had a group of about 10 folks, and we helped cities. I've helped probably every county in Florida with their park courts, renovating courts. We've helped over 100 universities design their venues. And what I tell presidents or city council folks or even economic development folks in the beginning in this job, in that facilities job, is you have to have a picture and you have to have a vision. And I learned that in my days when I was fortunate to be in economic development in Atlanta, outside of Atlanta in Peachtree City. I worked for the economic development group there, which is kind of interesting. I ran a tennis center, but I actually worked for folks like you, which was a real blessing. I learned a lot. But one thing I've learned coming forward is as we're trying to make something happen, make the deal happen, was you have to have a picture and you have to have a vision. There's the picture. The vision, wow, was a little bit bold, huh? Home of American tennis? Really? Virgil, really? That's what you're walking around the country saying you want to find the home for American tennis? But it was important to do that because we were talking to folks, you know. Fortunately, we ended up here, but we're talking to folks. We had to have that vision and that picture of what we were trying to share with them. It didn't happen right away, like I said, but we had to have that. So let's go to the next point, which is who are we? Who is the USTA? Because now you're partners here, right? This is our home. We're the national governing body for the sport of tennis. Okay, so when we were founded in 1881, we were founded to come up with rules and regulations on how Jeff can play his match this weekend in Daytona. Okay, so we set those rules back in 1881. Now they've changed a little bit, but that's who we are. We want to promote the vision. We want to grow the game. We want to grow the game. We want all of you to start playing tennis, having fun, making it social, enjoying yourself, getting active. We are 700,000 members. There's about 5.5 million people that play. We have 17 sections. A lot of us are on boards and work in businesses, so we have a lot of interested parties that have a lot of opinions on how we should be doing things. One of our largest sections is Florida, USTA Florida, and they have 16 others. They have a board of directors. We have a board of directors. We have senior staff. So there's a lot of people that are involved in tennis. We have close to 300 employees right now scattered in different parts of the country. So that's who we are. We were founded, like I said, in 1881 in New York, off Park Avenue. I'm sharing this because some folks have mentioned New York and Connecticut. I work in New York and I live in Connecticut. Wow. Not for long, though. So we're in Park Avenue, rules and regulations. Moved to Princeton, New Jersey, northeast. Moved to White Plains, New York, northeast. If anyone, just a little bit of let me make an offer here. If anyone wants to use a testimonial of a northeastern company getting stoked and fired up about coming to Central Florida, I think I know someone you can talk to. Did I mention I live in Connecticut? So, our vision. So, we have the picture I showed you. We have the home of American tennis, very audacious, very bold. We want to make this home, wherever it was going to be or wherever it could have been, to be accessible to all. We weren't going to build a club. We were going to build a public tennis center. So the invite's there. If you got a couple dollars, in November of 2016, come up to the front door, reserve a court online, and go hit some balls. Now, we're going to do other things, but we wanted to be accessible. We want to reflect who we are, a diverse and, may I say, young, hip organization. We're going to administer championship-level tournaments. Perhaps the NCAAs will be here. Meeting with them a little bit later tomorrow. They've had a tremendous success. This is a little inside tennis, They've had a tremendous success with Omaha in baseball. They've had a tremendous success with softball being Oklahoma City. They've had tremendous success with a lot of the sports staying in one city. Something we can all work together on. I could see something like that happening. Fed Cup, Davis Cup, we sanction. There are events. Nationals, sectionals, there are events. We're the sanctioning governing body. And of course, we wanted to have a place where we can just put people together. Back when Jim Curry was playing, who's a great guy, he's been a great friend of Orlando and of us, and bring them together and let them play. That's our vision when we came to the home, when we started talking about the home of American tennis. So I want to talk about, so how did this happen? Okay, I've told you our history. I've shared with you kind of a little background, but how did this really happen? So this is all kind of new. It happened about 3.5 years ago when Player Development, which is in Boca Raton, Florida, a great Florida city, we share operations, or we rent space from the Everett Academy. But there's not many courts there, and there's not enough room to grow. And I was called in early with Patrick McEnroe, a friend, and said, hey, Virgil, I see you developing all these cities and all these courts everywhere. Man, we need like 3 or 4 courts. Maybe the smaller courts, maybe the larger courts, but we need some courts. I can't have Isner come down. I can't get Stevie Johnson to come down. There's just not enough courts. And we have all these juniors, and we don't have anywhere to go because at noon we can't really play anymore until 3. And we only have like 6 or 7 courts. So we went through the process of trying to find land. But now I'm starting to think back into my Georgia days. Like, wait a second, this could be interesting. So we hit dead end after dead end. That land can't be sold, that's too expensive. Is it really worth it? We're renting at Everett's. Is it really worth going through this process? So then we shut the door. I said, Patrick, let's bring out a blank sheet of paper. It's time to start thinking a little differently. And, these deals that you all have been a part of, and I've only done a couple of them, they start one way, and you're like, where is this thing going? And if people would have looked back 2.5 years ago, like, what is this guy doing? It doesn't look like it's ever going to be in Orlando, a big, massive tennis facility like I shared. But we sat down and started, bringing out a piece of paper and dreaming. Okay? We don't have that picture yet. So we're starting to dream. We're starting to think, well, what are we? Who are we? And as like any good business, we hadn't done this. We just like, let's take accountability of who we are. What do we sell? What's our warehouse looks like? What does it look like? What products are we putting to market? What's working? What's not working? What are we? Who are we? And what would someone be interested in seeing? And what would someone be interested in partnering with? So take a step back a little bit, because you can only get to there if you have strong leadership. And USTA has strong leadership. And Rick and Griff, some of the folks I've seen here know who they are. Gordon Smith's our executive director, visionary, smartest guy around, really has insight. He's going to be a real asset, I think, to us. Well, he is an asset to us, but to Florida. Kurt Camperman, our CEO of Community Tennis. This guy could run a lot of different companies. Fortunately, he runs part of our company. But one thing they allowed me to do, which is great leadership, is they allowed me to try some things out, kind of keep it within the rails though, right? But they allowed me to fail. And that's what good leaders do. They bring people in, and they say, you want to do something crazy? I mean, we were founded in 1881 in New York. We basically have been there for 136 years. But they allowed myself, and as I started putting a team together with like Patrick McEnroe, they allowed us to say, yeah, that's not going to work, probably. I mean, you gotta get this through. You gotta find a partner first of all, and this has never been done before. Okay, right? 102 courts. I mean, this has never been done before. There's no booklet that says, okay, now at this point of the game, you now make this phone call. There's no handbook here. Fortunately, and I will say this because it was mentioned earlier. Fortunately, it was folks like you that, when you're new and you see meetings and you see a lot of you in the room saying, I don't know how we can help, but we're here to say we'd like to see it happen, was really powerful. You talk about incentives and going off and all that, and that's very important. I agree. You don't get in this game unless that all works in. But the people, it really, you know what? I know it's going to sound, oh, this guy is so, what a marshmallow from New York. I mean, just sappy. But it really did come down to people. It really did come down to people like yourself, the leaders in the community saying, you know what? We want this to happen. We're going to do everything we can to support our partner, our friend that really wants to make it happen. So Gordon and Kurt, allowed that to happen. They allowed to say, okay, you may fail. I mean, you may embarrass yourself. And so let's get to that point where I start embarrassing myself. But so the backstory, is really what we want to really dig into a little bit is, who are we? I talked about that. It's like, well, we're tournaments. We sanction hundreds of tournaments. We're sanctioning the one in Daytona. It's almost not fair. I mean, we sanction these events, hundreds of events. 3-5 women's mixed doubles, men's doubles, this event, pro events, you know, what you call maybe single A tennis, double A tennis. We sanction all. We control all of that. We control league play. We control all that. We control player development. That's part of us, what we do. We control that. College events, we don't control that, but we are the national governing body, so we can influence that. So maybe tournaments, NCAAs, conference championships, we start putting that blank sheet of paper, start to fill up. We start to realize, wait, this business, I talked about the business vision, not the forehand vision. Although I know some of you probably are going to have some forehand questions at the end, but we're going to wait on that because I think I can help you with that too. But we talked about the business vision. So now it's 16, 20, all these Excel sheets of what we do, which we had never done before. Bad for us. We've never done that before. But now we had a reason to, and we had it all together. And we started putting it all together. And then, so now we had something. And so where do I go? Well, you know how these things work is like, hey, our CEO knows a CEO down in Florida, and there's a tennis venue that's struggling a little bit, and that's kind of your expertise, Virgil. So, you know, why don't you go meet with Disney? Whoa, that's my first one? I mean, you know, some of the smartest folks around. Why don't you go meet with Disney, see if you can take their facility and kind of get it going or give them some advice, and then if you want to pitch this home of American tennis idea, go for it. So, wow, what an opportunity. Talk about giving me a chance to fail, maybe succeed, but probably fail. But what a great opportunity. Talk about sharpening your pitch, knowing exactly what we were. Remember, 2.5 years ago, we were looking for courts in Boca. We didn't know this. Now we had a picture. We had 30 pages of who we are, what we could bring to the table, and we started meeting with a mentor, a good friend, Ken Potrock, with Disney. And you know what he also did? And this was a great reflection on Central Florida, was he wasn't embarrassed. He brought others with him. I mean, from the top on down. Brought others with him. Go for it, Virgil. What do you got? Ooh. Go back. Come back later. Let's do it again. Still brought people in. He wasn't embarrassed. Man, the confidence that gave myself and my team. You know, it's like, wait, these guys they have their precious time. Yet they're critiquing. They're saying, hey, you know, we would like to see this happen. I don't know if it's going to happen here, but we want to hear it. We're somewhat interested. And Ken invited them all in, and they came. Wow, that really started things going, because now we had something. And Ken was really very encouraging there and really pushing us. And I forgot, I got to go through that. And then it came down to, okay, Virgil, ESPN Wild World of Sports, our land is much more valuable than to partner with you. So I was like, okay, I get it. But you know, we learned a lot. We thank you for coming, and you know, we wish you the best. But not only are we going to wish you the best, but we really want to be there. If we can do anything, we will. And there's some people you might want to. I want to introduce you to you outside of my world. Wow, thanks. Because now I'm leaving International Drive. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I mean, maybe this is just crazy. I mean, you know, really? I mean, $80 million project, 65 acres. Come on, moving a company from the Northeast. Maybe this is kind of crazy, but it gave me some confidence. A person that was mentioned, I think Bill mentioned him, who I kind of knew, but it was one of those, hey, sometimes you just pick up the phone and call someone, right? And it was way above my pay grade, but I was like, at this point, what do I have to lose, you know? I mean, we're kind of down this halfway. I don't think it might never happen, but I'll never know unless I try. And sometimes when we're doing that deal, we just got to jump in, right? So I picked up the phone from a friend, a coach at Florida State. I said, can you give me that guy's name that you mentioned before that works in the state, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce? I'm going to call him. He goes, wow, okay, here's his number. Hey, Mark Wilson, how you doing? You don't know me, but mutual friend. I've been traveling in Florida for the last year now, spending some time in Disney. We want to do kind of a home of American tennis. Yeah, it's pretty audacious. Yeah, it's like, yeah, $60, $80 million project. Yeah, largest tennis center in the world, right? Yeah, people are going to move here like crazy. Yeah, the whole deal. It's like, any ideas? I mean, I'm not going to ask you for a specific spot, but can you give me 4 or 5 places in Florida? Because now I kind of have honed in. Now, I've been traveling to other states. Some of the states you mentioned, Texas, Arizona, California, North Carolina, and so forth. But I was like, can you just list some cities, some areas? He was like, okay, I'll give you 4. Boom, 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 boom. And quite honestly, I looked at all 4. But then I started honing in and said, you know what? This Central Florida and what's going on here, I think there's something here. And I made a phone call. Again, I picked up the phone and talked to Thad Seymour at Tavistock Group. And it starts with 2. You know, it was just Thad and I. He brought Rick to the meeting. Another great example that really blew me away was Thad did not have to, you know, he's Medical City, Forum. I mean, he's very busy, very busy. He didn't have to pick up the phone. He didn't have to set anything up. But he's like, you know, okay, come on in. Tennis? What? I'm sure he was thinking, wow, I'm sure he went to his wife, Katie, and said, yo, this guy called me. He's got this idea about, you know, moving, a New York company to Florida and, you know, building the largest tennis center in the world. I mean, so what could I do but say, hey, come over and have lunch? But you know what he did? And I said this before. He brought folks like Rick and Griff and other folks to the table. Some folks from the hospitals. And he said, hey, here's my family, Virgil. This is the Central Florida family. This Orlando family. Let's hear what you have to say. And I tell you, I went back and I'd been meeting with other governors and other city mayors, and I must admit, it was at this point now, it was really getting interesting and exciting and almost intoxicating of like, wow, these are some nice places, nice people. It was flying privately is a real blast too. I realized that. But the people and what Thad did and bringing the other people in, you know what he did? We basically group dated for about 6 months. He was not afraid to bring his friends to hear what we were talking about. He wasn't afraid. I mean, I was meeting people and, you know, hey, we're going downtown here, and mayor is coming. Okay, great. I didn't realize we had 2 mayors, you know. So that was great. I mean, I was great. Bring 3 mayors. But no. Treat Mayor Jacobs, Mayor Dyer, and I watched them. And, you know, a lot of what I do in coaching and in business, it's what's happening when no one's looking, right? I mean, and I spent a lot of time in these group dates. You know, I'm watching. Does Rick really are they really believe in Orlando? Do they really believe in Central Florida? Or is it just kind of, you know, whatever, let's get out of here? No, it was like everyone was believing in the message. And I'm telling you what, that's not like it everywhere else. And that's one where we have a huge advantage here. The people, for sure. And so I think I can answer that question really, really well, why Orlando and Central Florida. But let's finish up with this. I want to get in the weeds a little bit. I was like, okay, what made the decision? Okay? What made this? There's a lot of things, right? We talk about incentives. We talk about all kinds of things. But these are the 4 things that made the decision. Because ultimately, I had to go to Gordon and Kurt and say, as we went through this process, like, you know, this is so important for this project. The airport. The Orlando airport. I'm in love with it. I'm not ashamed to say it. I've been to every airport in the country. This is a great airport. Phil Brown and his group, you say, well, what was kind of your second meeting or third meeting in Orlando? It was with Phil Brown, runs the airport. It's like, what? You went to the airport? You're a tennis. You didn't want to talk about like tennis balls and forehands and backhands and all? No, I went to Phil Brown. And I had some specific questions that he answered. The airport's so important. This is a great airport in Orlando. I love this airport. Absolutely love this airport. But what does GTC mean? That's, I think, the difference here. You know, we talk about arrivals, departures, international flights, how many, this, that, you know, all this stuff. And in my presentations, as I'm selling why we're going to Orlando, I use those things. But you know what it comes down to after I traveled for 2.5 years to all these different airports? It's gate to the car. That's the difference here. That's the difference. I can get from the gate to my car in 9.5 minutes. I can get to the home of American tennis 7 minutes later. So my employees, and we're all selling to different people, so I'm to the employees of the USTA, you got an extra hour at home, and you're home for an extra hour. Essentially, that's what it comes down to, right? You leave an hour, you leave after breakfast instead of before breakfast, and you're home an hour earlier. Because the other airports, and where we were looking at, once you get that shuttle thing involved, put down an hour. Put down an hour. Yeah, it could be quick, you could get lucky, but that's it. The gate to the car, I think, is our strongest selling point here in Central Florida and Orlando. Because look, I made a promise to bring 100,000 people in. So you got different constituents, right? I have 100,000 people that they want to come in pretty smoothly, okay? Not as big to them, but to the employees of the USTA, we travel a ton. We got tennis tournaments all over the world, all over the country. We're all over the place. I can go to a coach and say, finish breakfast with your daughter, catch her ballet recital, oh no, not ballet recital, tennis match on the way home. Not one but many, I mentioned that. As we finished up, I mentioned that. It was a lot of people, a lot of people. Again, we group dated. It wasn't like, just let's go one-on-one so I can let you down and no one's gonna see. Everyone's coming to the room, the mayors. I mean, Orlando Utilities come to the room. Wait, I want to introduce you to Dr. Hitt at UCF. Well, visit Orlando, visit Florida. I'm like, wow, all these people are coming and they're saying, hey, you know, I don't know how we can help, but we're here and we want to support this. Oh, that one I want to talk about that I didn't put in here is attractions. You know, that wasn't our big thing, the attractions in the tourism life in Orlando. That wasn't our big thing in the beginning. It wasn't really a big thing for our employees. I mean, it just wasn't a big thing. And actually, quite honestly, they were scared. A lot of people were like, oh my gosh, we're right next, we're not going to be able to travel I-4. I've heard about it. It's like, do they even have roadways anymore? I mean, what's going on over there? They were scared of that. But, again, you don't know half of it. Brilliant. That is brilliant. I hope we continue to go through with that and expand that because people don't know, not only a half, they don't know like a tenth of what's going on down here. But they were scared of that. Oh, we're going to move there because Virgil, the other two cities you're looking at, they're, that's like a place to live. You really want to promote Orlando? It's like, hey, you don't know anything. You don't know what you don't know. But what did make a difference is seeing that business and how it really enhances Florida. But what for us, bringing people in, because every business is different, so we're promising to bring 100,000 people in, which we'll do. They're going to play a tournament. They're not all going to be like me and win it. Just kidding. That's just making sure everyone's listening as we're finishing up. No, they're not. Some are going to lose in the second or third day, and they're going to have something to do. And partnering with Visit Orlando and Visit Florida was huge because now, as they sign up for the tournament, we're going to put in, remind them, hey, there's all this great stuff, just in case you don't win. And you know what? Actually, maybe add on a day because you can go to all this great stuff. And maybe bring your whole family. And so as a business, we saw that and said, you know what? That took us to the next step. It's a little different. It wasn't about our employees. It was actually about the people that we're bringing into Florida. Oh, and then I can't get back there. But the last one I want to talk about is finding someone to do something big with, right? Okay, so not only did I come in and say, hey, guys, we want to build the largest tennis center in the world. Yes, we want to bring a lot of partners in to help us do this. But you know what else we want to do? Oh, gosh, really? I don't even know if I had this sold yet with my friends at Tavistock, Sesh and Jim and Thad. I don't know if they quite, I say, well, what the heck? You know what we want to do? We want to bring our friends. We want to big, real big. Whoa, what are you talking about? Fortunately, they didn't really say that because they were thinking the same thing because they do, and I know Orlando and Central Florida overall, and I heard someone else mention clusters. They were thinking that way too. So you had this guy, young, hip, diverse guy come in and say, hey, we want maybe a couple hundred acres and let's do something together. Let's do like a Silicon Valley of sport. Let's call it the Sports Performance and Innovation District. What do you think about that? Yeah, we're thinking the same. That was it. That was it. We found a partner. Incentives, other things, hey, that's all great. We found a believer and we found a partner, and it was a relationship. So yeah, we did come in big. That's the backstory. It wasn't just about us. I want to bring my friends. You know, as a National Government Tennis, we are pretty involved with a lot of sports companies, all the big ones. You know, we're involved, they're involved with us. You know, we wanted to do something big. So, this article was in the Business Journal the other day, and I share it with you because, wow, this is, I can't believe it. To be called one of the biggest deals. I don't know if that's really how accurate that is, but I will say this. Historically, it will be one of the biggest deals, historically. And this was from the other day. We cleared off all this 65 acres. We're starting. This is no fluke anymore. We're building this. We're building the home American tennis. And if I do have a minute, let me show one thing we do really well before I close. One thing we do really well is videos. I mean, and we run the U.S. Open. By the way, the U.S. Open, just so you know, what you're getting involved in here is we run the largest annual sporting event in the world. Okay, just think about that for a second. The largest annual sporting event in the world. That's your sister company. I mean, that's your sister property. So we're here down here, those of us in Florida, hey, what we have here, oh yeah, our big brother, our big sister, they run this little tournament. Over 700,000 people pay to go to that tournament. It's like, let's look at it this way. It's like running 8 Super Bowls back to back to back. The economic impact of the U.S. Open is larger than all the sports teams in New York combined. So you're not talking about someone that, you know, is just fiddling around here. We kind of know what we're doing. We kind of know what we're doing. But one thing we do well is we do the U.S. Open well. We do pro tournaments well. We do leagues well. We do tournaments well. But I think we find homes really well. And we found our home here in Orlando, and we couldn't be more excited about being here. So let me just close with this great video that I just love. And maybe you can cue it up, Tammy. I don't know if I can. It's just about 1.5 minutes, so. Thanks. We're humbled and honored to be coming home to Central Florida.